And another season of the NBA on ESPN is underway.
Let's go!
Curry for the record.
We have a liftoff.
Leonard
We in Philly. I mean, not us personally, but the game is. For an Eastern Conference matchup between the 76ers and the Knicks.
Looks like
Poor Knicks. They're 4-8 against the rest of the division, 9-10 against teams over 500, and that's what they're getting out of Philly, who are 21-14 in Eastern Conference games.
Christian Dior.
Yeah, RJ Barrett, young Nick, and
like
Christian Dior. Yeah. He got money, but can he get buckets? That's the real question. James Harden.
What the hell?
Looking more and more
Where
like
is
he belongs in Philly because he's blending in nicely.
Oh, a little
his
Celine?
I don't even know if that's necessarily camo because it's kind of like a tie-dye camo situation.
It's like a floral camo of some sort.
Yeah, it's like somebody painted it, like watercolor camo. I like that.
He looks like a construction worker.
That's rude. Anyways, welcome to Hoop Streams. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the ESPN app. We're leading up to that game. That game is at 7:30 Eastern. We are going to talk about some other things, but we are going to talk about that matchup. We got Fat Joe coming through.
No, Fat Joe's in the building.
We got Brian Windhorst coming through. It's going to be a grand old time. But we're going to start with something that we always start with here on Hoop Streams, called NBA Rewind. And the first thing we got, biggest hero.
Oh,
yeah.
Talking sandwiches?
Giannis.
Allen and Iverson. I don't bother you. I just want to tell you that. Like I've watched your story, watching documentaries, like you start playing basketball. MJ, I started playing basketball because of you. That's crazy.
If I was currently in the NBA, I would be in the NBA because of Allen Iverson also.
I mean, if we were ever wondering why Giannis was inspired to play basketball, we got the answer. You see what I did there? You see what I did there?
It's always amazing to see a superstar of Giannis's pedigree. I mean, listen, he's one of the most humble superstars, point blank, period.
Right,
but to, like, see him have that genuine moment with Allen Iverson, a dude that we all grew up watching and being like, oh my gosh, that's Allen Iverson.
Right.
To see Giannis, Finals MVP Giannis, have that moment was awesome.
Yeah, and I think it really goes to say where Iverson ranks in terms of most influential players in NBA history.
Top five.
He's definitely got to be up there. And Giannis, also one of the most wholesome players in the NBA.
All right, let's move on to best warm-up. If you guys didn't see this, then I don't know what you've been looking at, but Steph Curry,
man.
very impressive to say the least. This is how he warmed up before his game, and he made every single shot. It's like around the world by himself, just up and down the court, all the way to the logo.
Yeah, I see it.
And then back. It's wild. He made every single one.
The last shot is the most impressive because he was like trying to miss. He threw that thing, and it touched the rafters.
Oh yeah, when he threw it all the way up.
I think it was
a psychopath.
The crazy thing, it was about 15 shots in a row, if I remember correctly, of how many he took here. But here's the thing about Steph Curry. This is crazy to everybody, but if you remember back to 2020 when the Warriors posted a video of him, he hit 105 three-pointers in a row. So he does this.
Life on the line. Did you hit 2 shots in a row?
All right, let's go to Hype's bench because Watanabe put Kessler Edwards on a poster.
Oh, there we go.
That's the most embarrassing thing. But look at this bench reaction.
Is that me?
What? Gary's insane, okay? Most considerate, another Gary Payton the second is a man of the people. After he crashed into courtside fan, he took the time to make sure his J's were clean. Listen to this.
What was that? Can you get him another beer? I just dropped it. What'd you have? A Truly? My fault, y'all. I'm sorry.
When the Warriors were in Boston, he was like, listen, man, I know those drinks are expensive, especially in the arena. That was like $8 I just spilled. Plus, good taste. It was a Truly. Those are delicious. That fan got handsy. The first fan.
Sapped him on the booty.
He got a handful.
But listen, when you talk about him knowing things are expensive, the shoes that he stepped on of that fan on courtside were Jordan Retro 4 white cements. You go to StockX right now, those things will run you up over $600. So he knew what he was doing. Those are some clean kicks. He was like, oh, my bad, brother. My bad.
Yeah, but Gary Payton could have obviously bought him some new ones if he really needed to.
Or just wipe him off.
He ain't going to reach into his pocket for $600. He's just going to be like,
Exactly.
keep it moving. Have a good one. This memory is worth more.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It is now time for Playing with Confidence, brought to you by Jackson Hewitt. And we're going to talk about Ja Morant, who put on a show against the Spurs, putting up a career-high 52 points and setting a Grizzlies franchise record. Now, according to Caesars Sportsbook, he's currently 5th in MVP odds, behind Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Demar DeRozan, even though he's the favorite for a lot of people. And he even got an MVP endorsement from Allen Iverson.
Ooh.
Sooner or later, it's gonna happen.
On the trophy.
It's gonna happen.
Hey, that picture is raw.
It is.
I know, right?
It's pretty amazing.
It's nice. I wonder how many pictures that took.
So for that
Allen Iverson got
reason,
time. It's one and done.
we're asking you two to put up your MVP leaderboard because, I mean, obviously Ja Morant has been putting on an absolute show. Allen Iverson thinks it's going to happen sooner or later.
It will.
Let's talk about when you guys think it's going to happen, and I'll start with you, Scooby. Who do you have as your number 5?
All right, AI. I'm going to say it's going to happen later rather than sooner. I'm going to have Morant at 5 right now.
Ooh.
And the reason why I have him, I mean, he's moved up. He's moved up from number 5. And the reason why, this is the thing that comes with the MVP candidate. You got to have a narrative with it, right? Ja Morant has led this whole narrative and changed this whole team's attitude, their vibe. They've become must-watch TV to the point where he's become most people's favorite player at the same level that Allen Iverson has kind of jumped up towards people's attention. And listen, in that 52-point game where Ja Morant just absolutely went off, he did something that Kobe Bryant never did, LeBron James never did, that Joel Embiid never did. I could go on in the list. That was 34 points in the paint. How is a guy that's 6'3", so strong and balanced that he leads the NBA with points in the paint? You got to have him 5th in consideration. But I don't have him higher because the team is doing well without him. They're 12-2 without Morant.
Here's the thing, bro. You gassed him up so high, I was like, wait a minute.
But he's top 5.
Fifth.
Top five.
My 5th right now, and it pains me to say this, is Nikola Jokic. I think he is the best big man in the league. If I had a choice between him and Joel Embiid, I would take Nikola Jokic. But the Denver Nuggets right now are 6th in the Western Conference. It's stacked. It's too top-heavy with superstars, and that's what this is. It's a superstar-given award. So I'm going to have the Joker, the defending MVP, sitting at 5 right now. That's just where I have it.
That's disrespectful.
There's a guy named Garrett who is constantly in my DMs telling me that I am a hater because I don't talk about the Joker more.
We don't talk, and he's talking about SportsCenter Snapchat, right? So you're the Nuggets fans who are in your DMs are the Jazz fans who are in my DMs. Listen. All right, if LeBron James played for the Jazz or he played for the Nuggets, we would talk about them ad nauseum, but unfortunately he doesn't. So, yes, the Joker gets the short end of the stick right here. I don't have a good reason why he's not higher.
He should be higher. That's a joke that you don't have the Joker higher.
Who's your number 4?
You got to put Demar DeRozan.
Okay.
Demar DeRozan has been on an absolute tear. Guys, in Black History Month, the guy tapped into his full blackness. And
hey, what does that mean?
I'm confused.
Because he was just on another level. I just love what... Listen, let me talk, all right? So 35 points for 8 straight games, shooting over 50%. DeMar DeRozan has helped lead the Bulls into the top of the East. And on top of that, he's been doing it with guys injured in his lineup, like Zach LaVine, like Alex Caruso. I could go on in terms of the names of the guys that's been injured, and he's kept his team at the top. And I think the best part is how he's performing during the clutch. I mean, he's one of the highest performers within the last 5 minutes of the games, and you guys have seen the clutch shots that he's hit at very particular moments of the game. DeMar DeRozan should be higher, but in his last game, he scored 18 points, and he ended up losing to Ja Morant 2 games before that.
Everything he said, Yeah, but I can't say that. I got Giannis at 4. Okay. All right, and I'm going to have DeMar at 3, basically for everything that you said. The Bulls team right now is on such a resurgence, and I love the fact that DeMar DeRozan is making the mid-range jump shot cool again. That is something that AI would subscribe to and sign off on, right? Like, this is a guy who is just so pure in his shooting, and that's how they're winning games. I love to see him leading Chicago right now into a position of relevance. They're a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference, and that's why I'm going Giannis at 4. No disrespect to Giannis, and then DeMar at 3. Who do you got?
Giannis at 3 for me.
Okay. So it's a flip-flop.
Yeah.
All right, why?
Well, Giannis is having another incredible year, and what the team has done is kind of switched him up with his responsibilities. Brook Lopez, he was hurt earlier in the year, so what they did was put Giannis at center more, and he's having a great year at center, and numbers are still great, and Giannis is taking this team that's been doing decent this year, but in contention.
And here's the thing, Giannis doesn't need an MVP, right? He's won them. He's won a Finals MVP. Like, this is not a conversation that he even wants to be, he doesn't care to be a part of, which is unlike a lot of superstars who want to be a part of this conversation because they haven't tasted different kinds of success, which is the MVPs he's already won and the Finals MVP that he's already won. My second player, and this hurts me, but as I break down the definition of the most valuable player, at number 2 for me, Joel Embiid is not there. It's Ja Morant.
Okay.
And I want to put him number 1. My number 1 will be a surprise, but it's Ja Morant. Who, this time last year, if you were to say the Memphis Grizzlies are the 3rd best team right now in the Western Conference, they are poised for a playoff, people would be like, you're crazy. Yes, Ja Morant's fantastic, but Zion. Remember, everybody, Zion was the guy in that draft class. You think the Pelicans would take Zion right now if given the opportunity? Revisionist history. Heck no. Ja Morant is right now the most must-see player in the association. Skubie already touched on it. The 52 points, scoring in the paint at will. Allen Iverson showing him love because not since then have we seen a guy built like this, 6'3", slim frame, dominate in the paint.
Real.
It's insane what we're seeing Ja Morant do, and that's why right now he should get consideration. Like, if you broke this down, like Western Conference MVP, Eastern Conference MVP, yeah, it's an easy dub for Ja Morant.
But they perform well without him, and MVP's got to be, all right, if this guy was in the lineup, how would they do without him?
It was the stretch that they were able to stay afloat without him, correct? But there's no denying that when he's on the court, all eyes are on him.
That's true.
Everything runs through Ja Morant.
Skubie, who do you have at number 2?
I have Joel Embiid. And
whoa! Oh, okay, all right. I wanted to know
with this man.
I wanted to know who was left.
Whoa! But anyway, Joel Embiid has got to be my MVP. At the beginning of the year, they lost Ben Simmons. I don't know if you want to call it a loss, but he wasn't in the lineup. So he lost his second best player in the lineup, and he still managed to keep this team within the top 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. There was at one point that Joel Embiid for 30 straight games was averaging over 33 points, and that's incredible for a big man who's now shooting better from 3, who's passing the ball way better, and he has a whole repertoire of moves that just makes you say, wow. I mean, if you listen to some of the broadcasts, they said during the summer, Joel Embiid would play one-on-one full court, do KD moves, do Michael Jordan moves, do Kobe Bryant moves. And when you see him do it on the court, clearly that work has paid off.
Which is why he is the MVP favorite, in my opinion. And this has obviously a lot to do with what he's doing this. I mean, he, as a 7-footer, he's the leading scorer in the NBA, right? Night in, night out, points per game. He's top scorer in the NBA. But I think this has been sort of like a journey from 2 seasons ago when he started getting into that. Joel Embiid is an MVP contender. He should be in the conversation. And then last season, that picked up a little bit more steam. And that has carried into this season. And the way he's been able to do it without Ben Simmons, because he was supposed to be, that dynamic duo. JoJo's just done it himself. And because now James Harden is in Philadelphia, it's only going to raise the esteem and the acclaim of the Sixers and the attention on them that much more. Joel Embiid is the MVP. This is a long time coming, basically, is what I'm trying to say for Joel Embiid.
That's true.
As it relates to winning finally an MVP.
Scooby?
Well, the MVP, in my case, and I don't know why you got him 5th, is Nikola Jokic. I mean, come on.
I told you I didn't have that big of a reason. I just like the top heaviness of my order.
Listen, he's not the sexiest MVP award because he plays for the Nuggets. How much are you guys watching them on TV?
I love the Nuggets.
Gary watches them literally all the time.
Because he's a Nugget.
I love the Nuggets. That's why it pained me to do that.
But listen, Jokic hasn't had Michael Porter Jr., he hasn't had Jamal Murray. He's missing his two best players in the lineup, and he still managed to keep this team in competition for the West, a difficult conference where they got to go against the Warriors, the Lakers, the Mavericks, all these difficult teams, but he still managed to keep them there. And quite frankly, if we look towards the regular season, he has a chance to bring them within the top 4. Now, when you look at Jokic and what he's doing, this team without him is straight hot dog water. I mean, they can't do, it's disgusting watching them without Jokic on the court. But when he's on the court with them, they play at a way higher clip, way higher level, and he's still putting up ridiculous numbers, and he's doing better than the other guys in the assist and rebounding category. MVP, sir.
6th seed in the West.
That's literally, Garrett is in my DMs literally anytime I ever talk about it.
Hey,
Garrett, stay out of the DMs.
Anyway,
Send her another one.
He started this conversation about Ja Morant, who is in his 3rd season. He's absolutely balling. Another person that balled in their 3rd season, Wilt Chamberlain. It is today that it's the 60th anniversary of his 100-point game.
He's a guy that's, just seems to be not human. Beyond miraculous.
He was just that dominant. He was a freak of nature. He was just a Goliath compared to everybody else.
No one could guard him.
I learned something very quickly. When you got the big fella on your team, you don't have to worry too much about star basketball.
One of the most compelling athletes in our history. I'm so imposing physically. I ran much faster and I jumped much higher and I did things a little bit differently. I'm always looking for the edge.
Actually, not a lot of people on either team realized that this was happening until Dave Zinkoff, who was the announcer for Philadelphia Warriors at that time, announced.
On the PA, they're announcing the new record of 79, and during the announcement, Chamberlain goes right ahead through the announcement and makes a foul. He now has 81 points.
Then we all realized that this was going to happen. And it was comical because from that point on, all the shots went to Wilt, all the passes went to Wilt. We wound up throwing the ball from out of bounds all the way down the court to Wilt.
The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
Once I decide to do something, I will not stop until I think I've done just about what I want to do in that thing.
I can't see in today's climate with the athletes that you have, the coaching, the defensive schemes that they put forth, I can't see anybody eclipsing 100.
An iconic image for a milestone that may never be touched.
All right, we now welcome off the bench Knicks superfan Fat Joe, and we are so incredibly excited to have you here with us, especially. I know you said it's not a slight flex, but it is a slight flex that you're in the double R right now. Just a sprinkle of the stardom that we see here.
Listen, tell you something, man. You had to start it off with super Knicks fan, huh?
Hey, we know what it is. We know what it is.
Well, it was either that, off the bench, straight to the bucket seat. So it was one or the other.
Let me tell you something. I'm happy to be here, proud to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so speaking of the Knicks, we want to play a little game with you really fast. And we're calling the game Lean Back or All the Way Up, okay? And it's very simple. You either tell us, we're going to give you a statement, and you tell us if you're leaning back on it, which means you're not with it, or you're all the way up with it, which means that you love it, okay? And I'm going to start.
I like this contest.
Okay. Just so you know, Gary Striewski is the one that came up with this, so I'm not even going to take any of the credit. Okay?
She just threw you under the bus completely.
G-Money is the one who came up with it, so I'm going to give him all the credit here. Okay, but speaking of the Knicks, we're going to start there. Now, we all know that the Knicks have had some issues in the past years, and especially this season. So are you leaning back or all the way up on the Knicks making the playoffs this season?
I'm all the way up with it.
Let's go.
Of course. Why is that?
I'm all the way up. Because I believe in our team. I just think Coach needs to play the youth more, the younger cats. And if Randall could just gel and don't play one-on-one basketball and we just get that ball moving, we can easily make the playoffs. I honestly believe that.
All right, so that answer leads us to this next question, and I have a feeling I know where you're going to be going with this. The Knicks make the playoffs. So will they get their revenge on Trae Young and the Hawks in the postseason? Lean back, all the way up.
All the way up, baby.
Oh, that's the only way to go. Only way to go.
Fat Joe, take the Knicks fan hat off for a second and break this down on a basketball level. Why and how do you think they can stop one of the most electrifying scorers in the league from what you've seen?
I don't think that team, and I don't think Trae Young is feeling like last year's ATL. I just don't. I don't got the fear in them. Now, if you would have told me Ja Morant, you would have told me the Heat. You know, we won't beat the Heat. We won't beat Milwaukee. We won't beat Philly. But if you're talking about ATL, I think we got an even matchup. I ain't gonna lie to you, and I'm not being delusional.
I agree.
No, that was we appreciate the realness right there. You basically say we will lose to half the Eastern Conference right now, so we appreciate that. We appreciate that.
We will lose to 85%.
It's even bigger.
Just a different type of number.
ATL.
Yeah, and I agree with that because Bogo did say that he doesn't think that this team is that good this year. They're not the same team as last year, but when we talk about superstar type players from Trae Young to RJ Barrett, you seen him drop that 46 the other night. I mean, RJ Barrett, you got to answer this question for us. All the way up or lean back on him eventually leading the Knicks to a championship?
Lean back.
Ooh.
We feel the pain. We feel the pain in your voice. Tell us why.
You didn't even want to look at us.
Now, what I've been saying is that RJ Barrett has finally turned the corner into becoming a superstar. And so I never really believed in RJ Barrett like that. But he's been showing me there's a switch that an athlete presses in any sport at a certain point that they become elite. He's figured out how to get to the basket. And as of late, he's been unstoppable. So do I think he's a superstar? He figured out how to become a superstar in the league now? Yes. Championship, you need much more than RJ Barrett and whoever we got on this team.
That's different. Got to get some more help. And Julius hasn't been helping, I'll tell you that.
All right, let's talk about a guy who definitely probably would lead the team to a championship if, in fact, he decided to go to the Knicks. Do you feel like Kevin Durant chose the wrong New York team? All the way up or lean back?
All the way up.
Yeah.
So you feel... okay.
I just think he wanted to be in New York, but didn't... he didn't want to go to the Garden where all the media is focused, where everything's at. And so he chose like an easy way out, you know, because when you do it as a Knick, that media's on you, that pressure's on you, you downtown. I definitely know that him and Kyrie chose the wrong team. And by the looks of it, maybe they did us a favor.
That's true.
That's a fact. little subtle shade right there.
We got two more for you, Joe. My last one, James Dolan should sell the Knicks.
No comment.
I was going to preface that with I knew you needed to be careful because I know you're courtside next to him. So we'll keep that one pushing because we don't want to get you in trouble.
All right, final one over here.
You got me in trouble. You might have got me in trouble just asking me.
Oh, my bad.
Listen. This one's going to be easier. All the way up or lean back, the Knicks will land a big free agent this offseason.
Who's available?
We got Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, the list goes on.
Who do we got?
Who you got to move?
No, I'm saying, like, who's available this offseason?
I mean, Bradley Beal's right there. DeAndre Ayton hasn't got paid yet.
Ayton's our guy.
Okay.
Ayton? I like that.
Ayton's our guy. So I'll say all the way up. I'll say we are definitely going to land a big free agent this year, for sure.
Market number one. Have to.
Yo, we need to get him a job at ESPN. I learned something just by listening. I'm not even going to cap.
Yeah, thanks so much, Fat Joe, for joining us.
My life is basketball.
Hey,
I just rap on the side.
We love that. Thanks so much for joining us on Hoop Streams.
That's dope.
Thank you so much.
All right, it's now time for the main attraction. And to talk about this matchup, we bring in our guy, Brian Windhorst. And Wendy, I want to talk about this game, the 76ers, and in a second. But first, we want to talk about something that's going on in the WNBA. We saw that story in Sports Illustrated about the WNBA fining the New York Liberty for chartering flights for their team. What exactly is at the crux of this issue?
Yeah, it's about fairness, and this is a complicated one. So on one hand, you could say that it's not fair, the difference in the travel quality that the NBA players and the WNBA players have. The NBA players fly on gigantic charter planes. I mean, gigantic. The planes that they fly on could go to Europe. But the WNBA flies commercial. The thing about it is that the WNBA doesn't want it to be unfair that certain teams that would potentially have wealthy owners would be able to fly private while other teams wouldn't. So it's not really fair that the Liberty would fly private, but maybe the Indiana Fever would not. And so they're trying to keep fairness. Joe Tsai, the owner of the Liberty, is looking for a sponsor, an airline that would be willing to potentially make a deal that would make it affordable for the WNBA, but they're not there yet. And so he was fined $500,000 for flying his team around private.
Do you feel like it is necessary to possibly terminate the franchise for this?
No, and I don't think they ever would have done that. I mean, that is, like, I know the Sports Illustrated story said that. That sounds like a saber rattle from the league office to say, please don't do this again. Because quite frankly, Joe Tsai is worth so much money that even fining him $500,000 is sort of insignificant to him. And he would, in theory, say, I'll charter him again next year. And so I think that was just, them saying, hey, we go to the stick if we have to. I don't think that was ever on the table. But it is a reminder, especially when you see the WNBA players signing contracts that, max contracts, for a year that, are worth $100,000, $200,000 relative to what their male, counterparts make. It's obviously an indication of just how far the inequality is. And it's something that the league has been working on, and they've been making strides. It's never been better to be a WNBA player, but obviously definitely room to grow.
Wendy, we'll pivot back to tonight's game against the Knicks versus the 76ers. Last time these guys played just a couple of days ago, James Harden went crazy. A triple-double. Him and JoJo paired together. The Sixers look like a gigantic problem for the rest of the Eastern Conference. What do you expect we'll see tonight from Harden in Philly?
Well, I expect them to be pretty darn good tonight because, number one, they've had 3 days off. Number two, they're playing the exact same team they played the last game over the weekend, which means it's kind of a light prep work. Thirdly, hey, there's going to be a lot of energy in Philly for this game. I expect them to be awesome, quite frankly. And, Joel Embiid has 40 free throws the last 2 games. 40. So I expect the Knicks to try to not foul him, which means Embiid will have some more space, which means the two of them will probably go off. But I thought the Bucks were going to win on Saturday, and Christine said, nope, the Nets are going to win, so maybe you shouldn't listen to me.
I just do exactly what you don't do, and it works out for me.
Hey, she knows what she's talking about. But, man, that success that these two have had, James Harden and Joel Embiid, has really shown itself the last 2 games. James Harden with 16 assists, almost getting a career high. I mean, that's insane when you think about how he's able to play that way on a new team. Now, is this success between these two guys sustainable?
I think they're going to be really good together because their games match. I mean, the nature of basketball is a really good ball handler and a really good big man running 2-man game together. And especially when they can spread space in between them, where it's just the threat of them running 2-man game together can cause problems. But I will say, regardless of what happens tonight, let's just wait 7 days because Friday they play the Cavs at home and Darius Garland should be back. Then Saturday, a brutal back-to-back for Philly in Miami. Monday, Chicago Bulls, 3rd game in 4 nights. And then next Thursday, I don't think Ben Simmons is going to be available for that game, but Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant will be when the Nets come in. So after those 4 games, if they're still knocking their opponents around and putting up these kind of numbers, let's start to really talk about their potential to win the whole thing. I'll know a lot more after those games.
Speaking of potential to win an entire thing, Joel Embiid has been very consistently great all season. Now he obviously has James Harden there. It could change things a little bit for him on the court. Do you feel like Joel Embiid can maintain his MVP season?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be able to win the scoring title because quite frankly, I think LeBron, all he's going to be doing for the rest of the season is trying to score. So he may go after that thing as like, don't tell anybody, but that's my finals. Just don't tell anybody. So I don't know if he'll maintain the scoring title, but if Philly wins and goes shooting up the charts and like gets in the top 2, which is right there for the taking, it's going to be really hard if Joel stays healthy to overcome him. You know, Tim Bontemps, my colleague, did a straw poll a couple of weeks ago, and this is a legitimate thing. This is like the most legitimate MVP barometer out there because he talks to 100 of the actual voters all across the country and even overseas, like the exact same way the NBA does. And they had Embiid and Jokic 1-2 in a tight race. And I'll bet if they took it again today, with the way Embiid has looked with Harden, he would expand that lead. So I still think it's going to be Embiid. We're going to watch Morant. We're going to watch DeMar DeRozan for sure, but Embiid's got the inside track.
All right, so as we look at Joe possibly locking down his MVP, somebody who's been flying under the radar on why we're seeing that Daryl Morey was like adamant of keeping him, Tyrese Maxey. He's been showing out, obviously not the big name on the Sixers roster, but have these last 2 games showed us why Daryl Morey and that front office was so adamant about not including him in any sort of trade package?
Yeah, man, I think adamant is not even going far enough. From what I hear, they were like, he was untouchable, which is kind of crazy because he's a role player. You wouldn't think a role player trading for a Hall of Famer would be untouchable, but that's the way I heard that they were going after him. And one of the things that's happened, you can see in that clip there, look at all this space that he's got. You know, he was playing point guard before. He had to worry about setting his teammates up. Now that he can focus on scoring and he has space, he's torching opponents. In fact, I would not be surprised if we start to see scouting report changes on him because he's kind of playing like a whole new player. And, you know, if that's Daryl Morey seeing that in the future, Doc Rivers seeing it in the future, kudos to them. But if he keeps playing at this level and scoring at this level, I mean, basically they've relegated Tobias Harris to their 4th scorer, which is a luxury. That's not an insult. Then, this offense is going to be something to really deal with.
Now, on the other side, the New York Knicks. I mean, we talked to Fat Joe right before you came on, and we called him a beloved Knicks fan, and even he was like, shh, 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 don't say that too loud. But in the month of February, they only won 1 game. I mean, is there any bright spots for this New York Knicks team this year?
Yeah, it's their young player, R.J. Barrett. So he has had a really good year on just about every metric. Now, some people are saying, I don't know about scoring a lot for a bad team, but he's been terrific. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to stop all of you short. I don't know how old any of you are. I'm not going to ask you to say how old you are. But do you know when the last time the Knicks drafted a player in the 1st round and then gave him a long-term extension? In other words, a successful draft pick?
Patrick
Charlie
Ewing.
Ward.
Oh.
He was drafted in, you're not even far off from Patrick Ewing. He was drafted in 94, extended in 99. They haven't had a draft pick that they've kept and extended in the 1st round since then. Okay, so if they just give him an extension this summer, I'm not saying it's a ticker tape parade, but maybe just like a little, parade around the garden, around the Madison Square Garden, because it's so unusual for this to happen for the Knicks. And look, let's just be honest, that's one of the bright spots you can point to, one of the few.
Wendy,
progress, baby.
Yes.
Wendy, I'm going to guess you're taking the 76ers in this one?
I know not to go against you. I'm going to let you pick first, and then I'm going to stay back. You have my respect.
I see.
I personally would be stunned if the 76ers lose, but I'm not going to go. I learned my lesson. I'm not going against you.
I feel like that's what you kind of said last time,
that
too.
said, I dare you to pick the Knicks. I dare you to pick the Knicks.
Pick the Knicks, Christine.
Hey,
pick the Knicks.
You can pick the 76ers.
Hey,
It's all good.
chill.
Even if I lose, it's a 50-50 split. So we're all good. Thanks so much, Wendy, for joining us. Quickly, guys, who you got? One word.
Nets. No, Sixers.
Okay, so Scooby has the Nets. Who do you have?
Sixers.
Anyways, watch the Knicks versus the Sixers right now on ESPN. We'll see you guys next week.
He's too busy cooking a
I don't know what he's talking about.
You don't know what the time.